What is the worst case of princess behavior you've ever seen? I worked with a girl who had a daughter that she had in her teens. She was dating the father and had just become pregnant again. They were both working to put themselves through college and support their children. He proposed to her and she told him no because the diamond was too small. At previous job, me and some random girl were involved in calculating a bill. She told me I'm a lady, I don't do math. I'm a lady, I don't do math. Sounds like an opportunity to charge an idiot tax. I work at a clothing store. One night 15 minutes before closing a group of 4 come in. I proceeded to tell them we were 15 minutes before closing. To which one of them replied, we will only take a minute. Nope, not a minute. Not even 10. They left the store 40 minutes after closing. All because the daughter, whom I presume was in her mid-20, needed to find an outfit for a photo shoot. The entire time she was in the changing room she would throw the items she didn't feel good in at one of my associates. When she finally decided she wasn't gonna purchase anything, she had left a whole rack of clothing, which if we were still open wouldn't have been an issue, but after 40 minutes of being closed the other associate and I had already finished recovering the store for the night. She finished it off by complaining to her boyfriend that it was his fault she didn't like anything because he didn't compliment her in any of the items. She literally stomped out with her arms crossed and pouted. I've avoided this by telling customers that our computer system to check people out locks down when we close. Gets them moving real fast. I work at a library, and someone wanted a library card. Okay, great, just fill out this short application on this kiosk. Takes only a few minutes. Simple stuff like name, address, birthday, email, etc. She didn't want to. Can we do it for her? It's too much work. Now, if someone has an actual reason to ask us to do it for them, we can enter all of that manually. No problem. But in this case, she told my co-worker I don't want to do all that work. And my co-worker said I guess you don't want a library card then, either. If she can't fill out a form I would guess that returning books would also be too much work. I was in the line waiting for the Hulk roller coaster at Island of Adventures in Florida. There were these 2 teenage girls in front of me. When they got to the front of the line, they asked to be sat in the very front row. There is a separate line dedicated for the first row and the park employee told them this. They kept showing the employee their fast passes and demanded to be sat in the very front row, but the park employee sat them in the very last row instead and both the girls threw a temper tantrum. I couldn't really believe it. We were already in the fast pass line, so instead of waiting 2 hours, we only had to wait about 30 minutes. I got the idea that the girls weren't used to being told no. My 17-year-old co-worker is a spoiled little brat. She's a cashier, and if the queue gets too long, both of us have to go on till to serve. Yet instead she hides in the kitchen and leaves me to a massive queue. Oh, and every time I take my break and we're both on shift together, she hides under the ice cream machine for the entire 30 minutes rather than serve customers. She used to pull me off my break to please serve them every 2 minutes until I told her to do it yourself and she chucked a scream crying tantrum. There was a girl in my university who wanted an on-campus job to cover her expenses. She threw a fit when the receiving department did not select her. No bias against her. She complained to the school and reported the receiving manager for being sexist and not giving the job to a girl who has never lifted anything apart from her handbag. The manager did budge and hired her. She stormed out 2 days later calling the department unfair towards women who couldn't. The very reason bona fide workplace requirements exist. I watched a college princess empty an entire shelf of wine Hulk style at Bevmo at 10 AM on a Tuesday because they couldn't sell her a pack of Corona. First, she was upset because she cut in line and everyone was bullying her for it. She was frustrated nobody understood why her time was more precious than ours. Then, the cashier was being racist because he couldn't sell her the beer. Couldn't, not wouldn't. She was under 21, US. They're both white. BTW. She starts to whine and stomps her feet like a child. When that doesn't work, she starts crying and pulls the "they always sell it to me at the other store" card. Cashier is done with college princess. He calls out the manager. The manager tells Princess she will not be purchasing alcohol that day or any other day until her 21st birthday. It was like the manager said the incantation to summon a banshee. Princess let out a screech that could be heard 2 states away, ran over to a full shelf of wine, and started slamming every bottle she could reach onto the floor. By the time the police came, her legs and feet were covered in blood and glass, all because they wouldn't break the law and sell her beer. I wonder how much college Princess was charged for that wine she never got to drink. There was a girl I knew in college, sorority sister of my girlfriend at the time, who has been dating a guy since high school, who attended another university in town. They were likely to get engaged when they graduated college, and she stated that she was demanding a 2+ carat ring, even if it meant her father had to pay for part of it. Her future husband was going to be an engineer and came from a middle-class family, so such a ring would be an exorbitant expense. She came from money, as her father was some bigwig doctor in Miami. I just can't understand this attitude to engagement rings. I love my ring, but just as much love that my husband and I chose one that was affordable for him and wouldn't involve any debt. I could enjoy it without any feeling of burden. His cousin borrowed £3,000 off his mother, the cousin's mother, to buy an engagement ring. She's retired and on a small pension. The fiancé thought that was fine. My friend's ex had major "I'm a princess" syndrome. Aside from the fact she would literally call herself a princess, she was majorly high maintenance. He spent all his money on her, around $500 when we were all in high school and unemployed. Spent every ounce of time he was free with her, and texted at all hours they were both awake. Then some other dude became interested in her, and she was boasting about all the attention she was getting. When my friend dumped her finally, she started going out with the other guy. I thought it was done. Well, no. She then proceeded to stick herself to him like glue and continued with the constant texting so that no other girl could approach him. Then when he said he didn't want to be friends with her, she went around to her close friends calling him a rapist. He is not, and she eventually admitted it. Because, you know, the princess is never at fault. Pro tip: any woman with a tattoo, bumper sticker, or clothing item emblazoned princess is someone you should stay far, far away from. Also see B, queen, angel, diva, lady. My cousin was given a brand new Mustang on her 16th birthday. She demanded that my uncle return it and get another one because she didn't like the color. So he drove 3 hours away to another dealer to get her the color she wanted. She refused to go with him because she had better things to do. None of this is surprising, because she's been catered to her entire life. However, my uncle, who is a really laid back and funny guy, made a pit stop at a body shop and had them add Veruca salt in big bold letters across the bottom of the windshield. She was furious and demanded they remove it, but my uncle simply told her that if she did anything to get rid of it he would sell the car and she was welcome to buy one with her own money, so she dealt with it. Holy heck, taking a scarlet letter and going deeper. Hardcore. My sister wanted everyone in her wedding party to do a 6 AM yoga class on the day of her wedding. Everyone was tagged at the rehearsal dinner the night before. No one wanted to get up at 6 AM. We all told her way ahead of time we all hated this idea. She stomped her foot about it anyway. There was puke. Just to add, she asked me to be her mom when I was working in the Philippines and she was home in upstate NY. I told her I couldn't commit to the responsibility of being mom. She said she couldn't believe I wouldn't move home for something like this. We did talk for 4 months. I did end up going to the wedding, but as a normal guest. She still tried to make me do the yoga class. I refused. She didn't speak to me all day on her wedding day. I was okay talking to the other 300 people there. My ex had a full-out temper tantrum that her parents sent her a Louis Vuitton handbag, worth $10K or so, not the luggage set. She was lying on the floor kicking and screaming. It was strange. Rich people problems, I gather. Jesus Christ. I hope you dumped her right after that. My former friend's parents bought her a brand new Lincoln MKZ. She had this car bought and handed to her for nothing but existing, and this was the 4th-ish one that her parents purchased for her by the time she was 23. One day, she decided that she didn't want the MKZ anymore and insisted that her father buy her a new Jeep. For once in his life, her dad pushed back, because he had just retired and money was a bit tighter, and my former friend threw a complete fit that he would even think about suggesting a used Jeep, even though her Lincoln was less than a year old. One of the last times we hung out, she said to me, "Daddy won't buy me a Jeep and I'm really mad at him. I hate this car and I'm going to crash it, so he will have to buy me the Jeep I want." I slowly started drifting away at this point because I was dumbfounded. But lo and behold, 2 weeks later I saw an article in the paper and there was her MKZ wrapped around a telephone pole. I saw her in the grocery store a while later and she got into a brand new Jeep. She's gonna wind up in prison at some point. We were in college and I told a friend I liked her car. Looked nice to me, probably $10 K at least. And she said, "It doesn't cost as much as my brother's car." Then, my parents better buy me expensive presents for Christmas to make up for it. I stopped hanging out with her after that. I couldn't believe how spoiled she was. My parents refused to get me a flip phone, never mind a car. Was dating this chick for a few months. We make plans to hang out and cook dinner at my house after work. So I text her saying I'm heading home from work and I'm gonna hop in the shower real quick. She replies that she'll start heading to my place. So I put my phone in my room and hop in the shower. Then I start prepping things for dinner. It's been an hour since she said she was on her way and she hasn't shown up. So I go back to my room and check my phone. A few missed calls and a bunch of messages from her. She had shown up to my house, stood at the front door, but because my phone is in my room I didn't hear any of her calls or texts. So she left and went back home. She didn't ring the doorbell or knock because she is a lady. Tells me she can't believe I wasted her time. A 29-year-old princess that is too good to even knock on the door of the guy she is dating. I thought it was a joke. I have a little cousin who I had seen from the beginning was going to turn out to be this little princess. The parents would give her everything she asked for. She wants a dog at 10, let's give her one. Oh, she doesn't want to take care of it anymore, let's give it away. Now she wants a new iPhone and iPad, even though she just broke her previous 3 within months. Any clothes, anything. I just remember growing up hearing my parents' stuff is better. You wouldn't know because your parents are poor. Recently, at the age of 15, she decided she wanted to take singing lessons and become famous. Now we have to constantly listen to phone recorded videos of her singing. Terribly, but everyone praises her for everything. I went to school for audio engineering, so naturally my aunt wanted me to record her, which I refused, saying I want no part in this. This didn't go over well. She then went on to audition for The Voice, in which she didn't even get past the first audition. Of course it wasn't her singing though. They just don't understand what talent is. She now is struggling in school because she doesn't have any friends and does not understand why. I know this is pretty vague, but there's just so many instances. Another was when my great aunt was babysitting her and had to take a trip to Walmart, in which my cousin said, "Ugh, Walmart? I will not step foot in that store. That's for poor people." The same trip she flipped out on my aunt for having crank windows instead of automatic ones in her car. My SIL screams WHO didn't do my laundry, is abusive towards kids, thinks cleaning is beneath her, is a freaking slob, has temper tantrums and the emotional intelligence of a 2-year-old. She's nearly 22, and a freaking spoiled narcissistic pose that is enabled by her doting parents. Also, surprise surprise, she's the golden child despite how badly she treats them. This freaking 18-year-old princess from Brooklyn ran a stop sign in a brand new Lexus and T-boned my ex's car. They slammed into the car right behind my seat. She tried like heck to say it was our fault. Her mom and bro were in the car with her trying to tell the cops it was our fault. The cops looked at our car and was like, "How the frick did you do that much damage to the car if you just came 10 feet from a stop sign?" They shut up. The most Brooklyn princess moment I have ever seen. A girl, late 20s, threw a massive temper tantrum cause I refused to change shifts with her. Basically she wanted me to work 10 straight days and 2 double shifts because wanted to go to her summer festival. We were short-handed already due a colleague being taken to an emergency heart surgery. Luckily my front desk supervisor and hotel manager had my back on this. She was told to resign shortly thereafter. my roommate in college got sick one time. Had a mild flu. I'm a mother hen type, so I got her to the hospital during a blizzard, got her meds and generally was taking care of her. I thought she would thank me or something, but instead she asked me if I could feed her soup. I said, I think you can handle it, and bounced as fast as I could for the next couple of days. I worked in a fabric store and a customer made me stand there and discuss with her hired party planner exactly what fabrics to pick and what to do with them. After nearly 45 minutes of trying to help her match Pinterest pictures, I finished cutting her fabric and handed it to her with her slip. She asked me to put it in a basket, so I begrudgingly did since they were right beside the counter. I went to hand her the basket and she looked down extremely confused and told me to take it to the front checkout because she still had more shopping to do. I couldn't believe it. I used to work as a delivery driver. One time I delivered to this business and it was like they wanted me to be their waiter, set everything out for them and get their drinks. I did expecting an awesome tip between 4 people, but I was tipped with life advice about getting a real job. Was on vacation with my parents in Hawaii. Saw a couple approach the water. Husband inflates a pool raft and wife lays on it and is pulled into the water. She did not want to get wet or in the 80-degree water and got visibly angry when her husband let the raft drift away from him so he could dive underwater and swim. It was at that point my dad gave me legendary advice. Doesn't matter how pretty they are, always leave the B for the other guys. Your dad is a cool dude. I had a roommate that used to celebrate all of March because it was her birthday month. It was just an excuse for her to get drunk and act nasty toward people with impunity. Nobody ever tried to call her out on it, except me of course. My birthday is also in March. So I've got a long list of abusive girlfriends who were spoiled and entitled. But there was one who was only emotionally abusive, not physically, and very spoiled, and I blame her idiot father. That is Princess. She expected me to always be ready to jump to her side if she needed anything. She did not cook, clean, or even shop for herself. She couldn't even bathe herself properly. Like what the actual freak? I admit I stuck with her because I have this fetish of being needed and the like. So the fact she was so dependent on me, while also so adamant about being independent, it was a major turn on. But holy frick, I literally had to help her bathe, brush her hair, all that crap. But when I was tired from working long hours, or when I just wanted to relax after a crappy week, I had to be there for her. And if I said no, threats of suicide, crying about how heartless I am, or how cruel I was, or how she would starve to death if I didn't come and prep her meals for the week. I had to cook her meals, 1 week's worth at a time, so she could reheat it. It was emotionally exhausting and physically as well. Finally I ended up having a mild mental breakdown, and I just cold walked on her, and cut off all contact. The whole reason for her behavior? Her parents divorced, and her mother didn't want any custody, so her father doted on her, hand and foot, going so far as to bathe her until she was 18. She literally never had to do anything for herself from the time she was 6 until I dumped her. My friend told me in passing about his 14-year-old sister, who doesn't know how to use a microwave. Apparently, she has also never done chores. All requests have been duly ignored. Had her dinner past 5 PM, sharp, and if no one is at home to cook, someone must get her takeaway. Cooked, not even poured hot water into a cup noodle. Interacted with many people outside her own race, which is pretty ridiculous considering that our country is very multicultural. She cannot speak any of the common languages, including English, to save her life. Eating food cold, either fresh takeaway or freshly cooked. Gone to bed later than 10 PM. It's a good thing. But try to keep that up when you're a struggling college student. It doesn't help that my friend's mother and grandfather have done nothing but enable such behavior. But if we put her in an apartment with every amenity required and food in the fridge, she would quite literally starve to death because she can't even order pizza over the phone. She needs help. But if we put her in an apartment with every amenity required and food in the fridge, she would quite literally starve to death because she can't even order pizza over the phone. A good, natural selection. I work at a pet boarding place, and even though we have people there to take care of the animals on Christmas, we're closed to check-in outs. Girl comes in with her mom to pick up their dog a couple of days after Thanksgiving and we try to confirm their Christmas reservation. They had planned to drop the dog off early on the 24th and pick her up early on the 26th. Mom asks if they can pick up on Christmas. We tell her nope, we're closed. This was not okay with this girl. They were going out of state on Christmas Eve to see family and returning midday on Christmas and she had to have her puppy on Christmas. Mum tries to reason with her, pointing out that if they leave the dog home she'll be alone from early Christmas Eve until Christmas Day. Girl doesn't care. Wants her puppy there waiting when she gets home on Christmas. She starts bawling her eyes out in the middle of our lobby and when her mother tries to comfort her she literally hits her. She's shoving her mom around and crying. Oh, and she's 22 years old. They cancelled the reservation. This one is just absolutely appalling. A girl I work with gets upset because her daddy took the nice BMW to work that day, so she has to drive the backup BMW. She gets to drive daddy's fancy cars every day without paying a cent for them. The backup BMW. Oh, what a problem I wish I had. My roommate. It had already been a tough morning packing things up to move to a new apartment because she hadn't had half of her things packed and ready to go. Her mom was helping us and at that point she had just started throwing stuff in boxes just to get all her daughter's things into the truck. This included my roommate's toothbrush and face wash. My roommate refused to leave until her mom went and found her toothbrush and face wash from the many boxes we had packed up so she could brush her teeth and wash her face. It's a small thing but it was just the cherry on top of all the other immaturity I had seen throughout the day. Dude, I freaking hate people who coerce others into helping them move and didn't even freaking pack. This happened with my ex's mom. She stopped talking to me BC I walked out after seeing that. Like dude, I'll move a bunch of boxes for you but I don't want to go through your crap and pack it. I graduated college, got a good tech job in a distant state. We bought a house and the first child came along, which brought an older relative of my wife to see the baby. Our house came with an unused trash compactor sitting in the garage from a previous kitchen remodel. As soon as this lady saw it and realized we didn't care she had to have it because we were family and family share. She'd never seen one before and wanted to help save the planet. She knew the perfect place for it in her kitchen. There was plenty of room in their car trunk if they just put all their luggage in the backseat for the 800-mile trip home. She had already measured it and knew it would fit the trunk. I was in shock. I was watching a 50-year-old have a tantrum. I drive Uber. I picked up a girl who swore her middle name was Princess. She took off heels and put her feet out the window while I was driving her across Hollywood. Without asking, she tore off my Uber sticker on my front window and started talking about how she was doing me a favor and now when people saw us driving people would think she was my hot, beautiful, gorgeous girlfriend. I asked her to please put the sticker back and she was genuinely confused and kept saying how awesome it is for people to think she's my girlfriend. She wasn't pretty at all but you could tell she had money to buy nice makeup and do her hair nicely and wear nice clothes. It was after that moment I knew I would never date a princess girl ever. I had a friend in college that was the only daughter in a wealthy family. She was also the youngest sibling and never wanted for anything. Her monthly allowance in college was pretty high and her parents never told her to get a job for cash. Aside from all of this, she has other decent qualities that make her a good friend. She is one of the most caring people I've ever known, never forgets a birthday, etc. However, don't you dare touch someone she considered hers. We had another girlfriend who was very sexually open. Friend was hitting on someone Princess considered hers and this girl was furious, though they never dated or were even close to being romantically involved. She had a huge crying fit in some guy's car and said even if him being unreasonable, it was how I feel and all that matters are my feelings. She didn't care at all that her feelings were unwarranted and basically cut off our sexual friend for the rest of college. She still hates her to this day. Honestly, I think part of her hates how sexual friend tended to get laid quite a bit. I went to school with a girl like that. Any guy she was interested in was hers and no one else was allowed near them. Only problem was that she was interested in literally every guy in town. Even weirder, she's come out as a lesbian now. My ex found a bag online she wanted. She thought it looked gorgeous, was just the right size and would go perfect with most of her wardrobe. The only problem was the price. It wasn't expensive enough. someone who wanted the bridesmaids and groomsmen to rent matching cars for her wedding. All had to be the same production year, color, and trim level. She had an absolute fit when she was told you can't just rent 20-ish black Mini Coopers. Homeboy of mine was dating a girl. We're hanging out at a bar, and she blurts out that she deserved an engagement ring. She said to him, "You can afford to put a Honda Civic on my finger." He got pee and walked off. She screamed at him, "I didn't say what year model," and laughed at him. They were married for a decade. His divorce has cost him tens of thousands. My dog is pretty okay about holding it if it's raining, but when he's really got to go I have to hold the umbrella over him. My favorite are dogs that look out one door, see that it is raining and then want to check the other doors in case any of them have an outdoor that isn't raining. My sister pulling out of my wedding party because she wasn't with me when I picked out the bridesmaid dresses, which were actually meant to go with my dress, all because my stepsister found them. Long story short, I got told by mom to axe the dresses and let her pick her own. By the time we made it down the aisle she quit my wedding for X, and my mom made me apologize to her until she rejoined. I am the younger sister too. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.